Fellas, they're looking spooky. PSG are looking spooky. And what did you think of that Madrid derby once again? Hello, I'm Adrian, and welcome back to UCL This Week. What a finale to the round of 16. Again, still going through the renovations. I have become dust man, a man of dust, but we're almost done. I know you guys maybe don't notice the difference in the uploading because I have my man Ayub editing videos so I don't miss a beat. Shout out Ayub. He's been absolutely killing it with my Tuesday uploads, but I do feel a bit disconnected, so I can't wait to get back to doing this full time instead of part time. I haven't been able to read comments or anything like that, and I missed that. Damn, I need a haircut. It's starting to look like Jade from. You know the show From? Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's got some Lost vibes. So if you like that show, you'll probably like this one. But anyway, no more talking. Let's dive in. Well, this one went about as you would expect, right? I mean, Benfica losing the first leg at home, having to go away to play Barcelona and play a tight attacking game to get back into this tie, leaving us exposed at the back. And without Carreras there to cover Lamine Yamal, and without a right back as well, it wasn't really a surprise how this went. Barcelona were fully deserving of this win. It just felt like we were powerless at times, especially when it came to striking the ball. Every single one was weak or straight at Szczesny or way over the goal. Not a lot to talk about in that department. Anytime we came close also, Inigo Martinez was solid. There was one sliding block from him from a squared ball from the left. I think it was Schjelderup that was putting it in. Impressive block from Inigo Martinez. But for Barcelona, for Lamine Yamal in particular, this was a great night. You had an 18-year-old, despite his age, he's one of the best wingers in the world, absolutely tearing it up on the right flank. Not only did he absolutely cook our defense for his fantastic assist for Rafinha, then he scored a perler himself. Later, Rafinha added a second, making it 5 goals against Benfica in 3 matches this season. Rafinha the Reaper. Of course, Otamendi scored from a corner, which made it feel like it would be another banger from these two, but Barca smothered us in the second half, and they move on. Deservedly so, right? We simply cannot play like that if we have quarterfinals ambitions. You can't defend like that. And not without a right back, you know? Not with that back line. This was the tie everyone was looking forward to. After PSG made Liverpool look pretty ordinary by their own standards last week. I'd never seen Liverpool get dominated to that degree in a Champions League match in a while. Not that I can think of, at least. Not in a while. Not to mention get owned to that degree and then end up winning, which is crazy. Now, I don't know if you guys saw it, but BR Football posted a clip from a stream I did for them last week about the teams most likely to make a comeback, and obviously PSG was up there. The comments on that, I mean, you would think that I backed the Cook Islands to win the 2030 World Cup or something. Honestly, it's good reading, as you can see here. So in this one, Liverpool had a point to prove, and you knew it was going to be a different story playing at Anfield. Liverpool with a flurry of chances early in this match. Salah with the best of them, but Nuno Mendes was there to deflect the ball over the goal. Important block. Nuno Mendes in general, great up against Mohamed Salah. But after an early spell where they looked shaky, PSG were comfortable at Anfield, and it wasn't long before they would get a goal from a rapid counter. A ball played to Dembele, but Konaté's intervention didn't do enough, and Dembele scored the easiest goal of his season, a tap-in, and the air was knocked out of Anfield for a moment. That PSG away support was unbelievable, by the way. Barcola nearly doubled their lead, but his strike was saved by an on-rushing Alisson. Then Kvaratskhelia hit a wicked strike that would have gone in, assuming Alisson didn't save it, of course, again. But Gravenberch deflected that one over the top. Dembele had a deflected strike just go wide. I mean, PSG were really carving up that Liverpool back line. But Liverpool started the second half well. In fact, they had a good half hour in that second half. They had a goal called back for offside, and from there, they continued to buzz around the PSG box and have some close calls. As Dominik Szoboszlai came into this match, the more prominent he became as he played in those pockets of space between PSG's midfield and back line, the more dangerous Liverpool looked. And honestly, they were much improved in that second half, as I said. It wasn't that PSG disappeared from the game because the threat was always there, but neither team ever delivered on that threat. And so to extra time we go. And suddenly, PSG were alive again, weren't they? You had Beraldo just heading it wide. You had Desiree Doué, who was unbelievable on this night once again. What a talent he is. With that little shimmy and a strike just wide of that same post. PSG had the best chances in extra time. Absolutely. They were the more dangerous of the two. and they snuffed out everything from Liverpool. A huge salute to Willian Pacho in this match. So calm, so clean at the back for PSG. So to the shootout, and PSG won 4-1 after Donnarumma, the shootout king, saved Darwin and Jones's penalties. Darwin's was honestly placed in the perfect spot that any keeper would ask for when it comes to penalties. Couple of feet off the ground, not far enough into the corner. It's right in the path where a keeper goes when they push off hard to either side. They don't have to reach up or down, just launch. And guys, I don't think you can deny that the team that was the best across the two legs did indeed advance. They were so dominant in Paris, and they were just as dangerous as Liverpool in the second leg. I mean, the thing that was holding Liverpool up across the two legs was Alisson. He was the difference between a comfortable PSG win on aggregate and a relatively dominant display, but still uncomfortably having to go to the shootout for PSG. I mean, not many teams can go to Anfield and have dominant spells like that. Have more of the ball than Liverpool, a greater XG, aka more big chances, make Alisson work like that. So PSG dominated the entire first leg, but lost, right? Weird anomaly of a match. First half at Anfield, Liverpool were good in the first 15, then PSG took over. Second half, Liverpool were quite good for half an hour, then PSG took over. Extra time, completely PSG. So on the balance of things, they were the better team. And PSG is basically, now I haven't played FIFA or FC or whatever since like 2020, but they basically are that dude you would come up against online in Ultimate Team that just went for all pace in every position. I don't know if that's still the meta. Absolutely pace all over the pitch. Dembele, Barcola, Kvaratskhelia is not slow. Nuno Mendes, Hakimi, Doué. I'm sure I've missed some, but just absolute demons to deal with that are all also technically excellent and have one of the most ferocious, impressive presses we've seen in a while. It's not just pace merchant FC with no substance. Enrique and Campos have been meticulous with the recruitment. It's not scattergun big names anymore. It's players who fit the bill now. I did a video on this at the very beginning of the season. You should check that out if you want more on the changes at that club recently. So PSG are looking great under Enrique. Really enjoyable to watch. Also, they said they would go to Anfield to win, and they did it. They called their shot, so that's impressive. Now, of course, Florian Wirtz left Bayer Leverkusen's match on the weekend on crutches, as he will now be out for weeks. Not entirely sure how long, it just said weeks. Definitely back prior to the end of the season, sometime next month. But this second leg against Bayern was being played this week, not next month. That, plus the 3-0 deficit to overcome, that's a big problem for Xabi and the fellas. I didn't really expect Leverkusen to be able to turn it around, given they really are not the team that they were last season, the team that could dig out a victory from a losing position in the 90th minute over and over again, a team that was so tight defensively and venomous in the attack, especially without someone like Florian Wirtz. This was always going to be an uphill battle. And given that Bayern rested all of their first choice players on the weekend, the guys who played against Leverkusen last week, it was difficult to see how they would turn this around, you know? The first half was kind of uninspired, not a ton to talk about there, but in the second half, Kane scored just 7 minutes in for Bayern. Just like last week, Kimmich was brilliant, and his beautiful chip ball into a completely unmarked Kane saw the English captain take a weird touch and then convert it with Hradecky at his mercy there. Unforgivable defensively, 4-0 on aggregate. Leverkusen just wanting the pain to end at this point, you know? They certainly were better after the hour mark. You had Urbig making a nice save on Schick's header. Leverkusen just generally finding more space. Oh, Davies scored. I mean, it was over, man. And then that happens, and it's 5-0 on aggregate. Great vision from the pass from Kane. Davies with a half volley that Hradecky could only get a finger to. And like I said, Leverkusen just trying to will the end of this in some ways. I mean, they did keep trying to score, of course, but Urbig had an answer to everything. Honestly, this was an emphatic changing of fortunes, not just from that shit Bayern performance in the Bundesliga, but from the previous 6 matches prior to this 2-legged tie that Bayern was winless against Leverkusen. 5-0 on aggregate. Bayern deserving winners. Leverkusen had no chance after the mistakes in that first leg, and then 0 answers in the second leg. So Feyenoord were 2-0 down after the first leg, and that can be close or it can be daunting depending on who you're up against, right? And when you're playing a team that barely concedes goals in Europe, like Inter, and you're playing away at the Giuseppe Meazza, tough. And then to go down 8 minutes into this match, thanks to a lovely solo-ish goal from Marcus Thuram, taking down a few defenders, a couple step-overs, then a rifled finish into the top corner. That was 2 goals against Feyenoord in this tie. Menace for them, as Lautaro was on the bench to start this one off. Taremi was out there instead. 3-0 on aggregate at that point. Hard to see how Feyenoord turned this around, right? However, Acerbi and Çalhanoğlu went double trouble on Moder to bring him down in the box, from which Moder converted the penalty to make it 1-1 on the night, but still 3-1 Inter on aggregate. So can you really start believing that Inter would throw this away? Especially when you have some absolute vintage diving work from Mehdi Taremi. He really is suspect, especially, dude, I've been saying this about him the entire time he was at Porto, and people say, oh, you're a salty Benfica supporter. Now you're seeing it for yourselves in the Champions League. So he plants his foot, no contact there on the foot, and then launches himself through the air and kicks out his foot into the defender's shin and just fabricates a penalty. He is a fabricator of penalties. He's one of the best in the biz when it comes to that. I have no idea how that one didn't get turned around by VAR. Again, to me, I don't want to live in a world where players can do this kind of thing, where they can jump through the air and kick out their leg and create a penalty. It's like Teo Hernandez did, except the referee got that one correct with Teo, incorrect with Mehdi Taremi. So reasons to feel aggrieved for Feyenoord there, but other than that, Inter still deserving of going through. Still the better side between the two. So like I said last week, I mean, it was kind of a routine win again for Inter. They win 4-1 on aggregate. Feyenoord definitely were better in the second leg than people perhaps expected them to be. Certainly than I expected them to be. But Inter just kind of rolled along and they're through. Just like that. Different day. Still the Mackwell shirt for continuity's sake. And we started off with Lille hosting Dortmund in just a winner-takes-all scenario, given they drew 1-1 last week. And if you're Lillois, then this match couldn't have started better. A rather hilarious goal, a one-off random goal that Kobel saves every other time typically. Ismaili doing well to win possession back down that left flank for Lille, surging forward, squaring to Jonathan David and his tame effort. Oh boy, Kobel. Guy was in a position of, someone who was bowling for the first time in their life. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, for the rest of the half, they really failed to provide much. It was all one-way traffic pretty much for Dortmund. With the Lille name we heard the most being Chevalier. He had that fantastic flurry of saves midway-ish through the half, and in total made 4 saves in the first half alone, which is, it doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot. He really does seem to be the next big thing for the French national team. Mike Maignan needs to watch out because he's coming for that starting position if he's to continue on like this. He did get a call-up for the Nations League in November, but was on the bench for both of those matches, I believe, so I'm curious to see if he starts in the international break that's coming up next week. Yes, international breaks are back, guys. Are you hyped? Right, so in the first half alone, Borussia Dortmund had 10 shots. Some of them that should have been goals, such as Pascal Gross's header that he somehow managed to put just over the bar, but their time would come. They would be Chevalier eventually. Remember, this is Dortmund in Europe, baby. Forget about their Bundesliga form where they lost once again this past weekend at home against Augsburg with all of their first choice players. These guys make no sense. I don't get them. They're a very chaotic team, but their dominance continued in the second half against Lille with Guirassy winning a penalty. Definitely contact, yes. Nobody from Lille even really protested it, but it was pretty minimal upon watching it again. One of those ones where Guirassy knew his touch was heavy. He felt the contact, he went down and was rewarded for it. Contact, albeit light, and it was given. Emre Can converts it to tie it up 2-2 on aggregate. And from there, the Dortmund onslaught continued. My friend Adeyemi nearly put Dortmund ahead with his strike that kissed off the bar on the way up, but Maximilian Bayer scored a beauty shortly after. Even before that, however, Bayer actually had another chance from a relatively free header, but got it all wrong. I noticed that Lille weren't great at defending those situations where a man would run in late to get on the cross around the edge of the 6. They weren't picking those up at all. Anyway, Bayer made up for it later with a lovely goal. Nice close quarters passing from Dortmund. Then Bayer with 2 nice touches before smashing it into the top corner. Deserved goal for Dortmund. And while we would see a push from Lille at the end, David had one decent chance that was saved. Dortmund defended well for the most part, and they advance. Like I said, a bizarre team when it comes to getting a read on them. Dortmund supporters, I guess you'll just keep on enjoying the roller coaster ride, right? 10th domestically, but facing Barcelona in the quarters. By the way, we'll go through all of the quarterfinal matchups later in this video. Club Brugge had a difficult task playing away to Aston Villa, 2 goals down, and it didn't take long until they were a man down as well, just 16 minutes. Rashford getting in behind from one long ball forward, didn't see much of Villa prior to that, and Saba puts his hands on his shoulders. Look, was it a strong foul? No. But again, you're forcing the ref into making a decision, and it was seen as enough of a grab to be a foul, and since he was the last man, it had to be a red card. For those of us hoping for a thriller, this was a bad omen, but Club Brugge actually continued to move the ball around really well in that first half and generated some chances for themselves also. They didn't play too badly in the first half. Things were going okay, but jumping to the second half, it all fell apart. Asensio scored from a well-worked goal, good tip past the keeper, and he should have really put Brugge deep in the dirt when he ghosted through completely unmarked, but hit the inside of the post. Massive, massive chance blown, but no worries. Ian Maatsen would get one later, Club Brugge dead in the water. Once that red card happened, they just coasted through this. Rashford and Asensio linking for another goal, making up for that miss from earlier. In the end, all too easy for Aston Villa. They deservingly get to move on. End of the road for Club Brugge, but man, were they fun to watch at times. I mean, is there anything to say about this match? Does anybody really want to hear about a matchup that finished with a gap of 7 goals? And Arteta put 4 left backs on the pitch at the same time? I mean, it's not like he had many options on the bench, besides like his main starters, of course, but don't want to run him into the dirt. Well, anyway, you had Zinchenko scoring a goal against PSV and choosing not to celebrate because he made 17 appearances for them back in the 16-17 season. I did look that up. Respectful or silly? Personally, if a guy who was at Benfica almost a decade ago who made just 17 appearances celebrated against us, I wouldn't care. But that's just me. I mean, you scored a goal. That was ages ago. You were a loanee. Just enjoy your goal, boss. Just enjoy it. Really nice goal, by the way. Great strike. Speaking of which, Perisic had a beautiful goal around the 20th minute. And from there, PSV began playing a bit better. Just realized my light wasn't shining on me very well. Oopsies. After the Perisic goal, they nearly got another one after, if not for a great Raya save. You know, it was actually, let me just adjust this light. It was actually a decent match at times, despite Arsenal playing a completely rotated side. It's just a shame that it was hard to get invested at all, given the scoreline from the first leg. Rice with a nice header to make it 2-1, though Lewis Skelly and Sterling also could have had goals. Sterling with 2 assists. You know, one of those. One thing that was entertaining to watch was the PSV supporters having a party the entire time. Their team was on their way out. They knew that, but that didn't stop them from cheering and jumping for the entire match and making noise. Lovely stuff. Always nice when visiting supporters finally bring a little atmosphere to the Emirates, you know? You got to rely on those European visitors. Well, actually, the away support in the Premier League is fine too. When all was said and done, top performer was the PSV supporters. And Arsenal, they sail on through. Comfy, cozy, easy.
Guys, editor Adrian here. Now, I did end up finding an angle of the penalty, the double touch penalty, a couple of angles of the double touch penalty that show what really happened. But I'm going to let on-camera Adrian speak. You know, he records right after the matches. So oftentimes he doesn't get to see a lot of the replays, and he mentions that. He does mention that. But just wait till the end. We'll give you the analysis at the end, okay? I'll jump in and save the day here.
But first, wow, the welcome that the Atleti players received from their fans upon arriving at the Metropolitano was unbelievable. Those fellas always show up for the derbies. But would the Atleti players show up against Real Madrid? Well, it is pointless for me to ask these kinds of questions when the score is right next to me, right here. I bet there was a high percentage of people who missed the first goal because they were in the bathroom or grabbing their favorite beverage or snack to enjoy during the match, because Atleti won the second ball, flooded forward, and Conor Gallagher tucked it in for 1-0 inside 30 seconds, dude. Oh, of course, that's always a curse on a match when people score that early. It took Real Madrid a good 10 minutes to settle things, as Atleti's intensity from the get-go was at rabid dog levels. But even when they did settle things down and got on the ball a little bit more, Atleti were still pressing the hell out of them, causing them to rush things, cough up possession, you know, misplaced passes, etc. Overall, in that first half, Real Madrid really struggled to create dangerous opportunities or really trouble Jan Oblak. They had just 3 attempts, One of them was on target, but their expected goals, just to give you an idea of what kind of danger we're dealing with here, was just at 0.08 in that first half, that's not high. Atleti, on the other hand, mainly through Alvarez, were really causing problems. Courtois had to make a couple of saves from Alvarez strikes, and the guy was so in the mood that he tried scoring from not one, but 2 consecutive corner kicks. Can't blame the guy. His technique is unbelievable, and his form lately has been hot. I don't know about you guys, but the first half was a bit underwhelming. Maybe I just built this matchup too much in my head, but I think it was because Atleti were good, purposeful when they got the ball, but Real Madrid had more of that ball, and they were having difficulties breaking Atleti down. So you were left with some aimless possession at times, miscues like Bellingham and Tchouaméni getting their wires crossed on that cross, that kind of thing. Then a little burst of life from Atleti now and then. I wanted that back and forth end-to-end madness, which of course Real Madrid would be interested in, and I completely agree with them. You typically don't want to get into that kind of match with Atleti. You don't want to get into that kind of scrap with Atleti. But in the second half, Real Madrid's attack started to come alive a bit. Still opportunities for Atleti on the counter, but they often didn't amount to much. And finally, it happened. What Real Madrid wanted, Mbappe on the ball with space to run into, and his run won a penalty for Real Madrid that Vinicius took, and he got way underneath it, hitting it high and wide. I believe he was using a sand wedge for that one. Chance blown, but overall positive changes for Real Madrid. But like I said, the threat from Atleti never really went away, and Angel Correa, moments after coming on alongside the other Atleti super sub, Alexander Sorloth, nearly scored a worldie. Imagine if that had gotten in. Imagine. So, extra time had some decent action for both sides. But that intensity that I wanted, it finally showed up in the second half of extra time. A little bit of tapatio sprinkled on the action. None that led to any goals. So yet again, we had a shootout. Man, Alvarez's penalty. Absolute heart and mouth moment for Atleti fans as he slipped taking it, but it still hit the roof of the net and went in. And then the referee called it a double kick, which was very surprising. Now, I'm recording this immediately after, so editor Adrian will have better views of it because the broadcast did not show it again. But I guess as he slipped, he kicked the ball off of his left toe as it was in the path of the ball. Not enough for even the referee to see it. I still haven't seen it, but he just canceled the goal. Oblak would save one, but with Llorente absolutely hammering the ball way harder than he needed to, it went off the bar, leaving it to Rudiger to squeak one in, just the spin of the ball taking it in, really, and Real Madrid are through again. You gotta feel for Atletico, though, to lose in that kind of fashion. You can understand why Simeone was getting the crowd pumped up after. These dudes really are El Pupas, the cursed or the jinxed ones. To lose in that fashion is crazy. I feel like in a shootout, that is a really harsh double touch of the ball that no one can really see or find evidence of, at least in the 5 minutes after the match.
As promised, I'm back, please. So, yes, here we are, the morning after. And with some micro-analysis, you can see that Alvarez did indeed touch the ball twice. An insane amount of scrutiny is needed to see it. Extreme slowdowns and zoom-ins are needed, but it is there. So that technically is the correct call, guys. There was no robbery here. I still feel like it's, well, correct. An extremely bitter way to lose the match. An incredibly unlucky. You hate to see a match of this magnitude have something like that play such a huge part. Also, here's something for you guys to noodle over for a while. To think through. Is VAR too far away from what it was intended to be? It was brought in as something to right clear and obvious wrongs, to help with clear and obvious mistakes. This whole clear and obvious is applied to some things and not for others. I don't know. But then there is also another argument, because we have seen images of Mbappe spotting the double touch immediately and going to the referee in the center circle. So he saw it. Somehow Mbappe saw it. The referee did not see it. I don't know how. But here's my biggest gripe of all of this, is I think that UEFA needs to be way, way, way better at showing the viewers these slowed down, zoomed in explanations like that, and explain these decisions a little bit better. UEFA Studios, that is, because they are in charge of the broadcast, right? They give the feed to all of the broadcasters and then they rebroadcast it type thing. They need to explain these decisions instead of just leaving us all in the lurch and then letting the broadcast studios after the match and internet sleuths do that work for them. The amount of times that they refuse to show a replay to back up a call is astounding. I have to constantly find it after the match myself, which is incredibly annoying. So anyway, Really shit way to go out for Atleti, but again, he did double touch it.
Anyway, let's take a look at the bracket here to see what the quarterfinal matchups will be. So Arsenal will be taking on Real Madrid on one side of the bracket, with the winner of that facing the winner of PSG versus Aston Villa in the semi-final. On the other side, Barcelona will be taking on Borussia Dortmund, while Bayern Munich will face Inter, the Benjamin Pavard derby, who scored against Inter for Bayern a few years ago and then dabbed. A knee slide dab. What a throwback, the dab. Remember that, guys? All right, that's all. Thanks once again for watching. If you're new here, why not join the community? You know, we do football explainers as well. Those are often a little more serious. I've been making them a little bit more lighthearted, though. This series, I used to just be, you know, this is real Adrian you get to talk to. It's not like, I'm making a YouTube video. Thank you for watching, kind of thing. Even in like the recent video I did on AC Milan, I was a lot more relaxed in that video, you know, a lot more lighthearted. So yeah, hey, after all that yapping, I'm sure that turned you off of the channel more than anything. But thank you for watching, guys. I do really appreciate the support, and I will see you again next week. Love ya.